Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Yumi here. You read the title, you know what this is. Allow me to explain. If you don't care for the formalities and just want to hear the rest of the VSMP story, you can skip to this part of the video. A few months ago, right after posting the beginning of the end, I made this post to my Discord and YouTube community page, basically detailing my experience with burnout and the steady decline for my passion regarding making content related to the VSMP. For those 2 years VSMP was popping off, that was the only thing I was working on. Every drawing I did was related to the AU or Minecraft YouTube in general, and I felt I couldn't branch out. Early last year, I finally realized how tired and miserable I was in this cycle. I wanted to make new things, but I felt I couldn't until I finished this massive project I had placed upon myself. At the very start of making this AU, I had made a promise to myself that I would finish the story no matter what. I'd been in a ton of fandoms growing up, and I've seen many AUs left on eternal hiatus, and I didn't want to do that to anyone. So, after I posted that episode, I decided to move over to a comic format to continue the story. It felt easier, and it was nice to be able to post the story more often. Even though I wasn't super into the story anymore, I was able to make working on it fun again. And then things came up in the community about a certain person. A person who I had looked up to for all these years and who seemed so genuine and charming. That whole ordeal was seemingly the straw that broke the camel's back. What little passion I had left has been completely snuffed out, and I don't want to draw these characters anymore, especially not him. If you know who I'm talking about, I beg you all to keep discussions about the matter out of the comment section. That's not what this video is about. Again, I made a promise I intend to follow through on. Someone on my Discord asked me if I would consider sharing the rest of the story if I ever decided to stop, and I said I absolutely would. So what I'm reading here is just a summary of everything that happens after the last comic page. If you haven't read those, pause the video here and you can find them on my community page or my Tumblr. Everyone caught up? Alright, here we go. Without further ado, the rest of VSMP. So, after XD shows up, Dream demands to know where Rambo is. XD says he's in the same place as everyone who breaks the rules, which is where they'll be going if they don't back off. While the two are bickering, Phil tells Techno to distract XD because he has a plan. While he steps back, Techno stands in front of him and begins talking to XD too, saying he just wants his student and Charlie's friends back. XD stands firm, believing they'll ruin the End Realm, which none of them have heard up until this point, besides Dream, obviously. He says that Dream and Rambo are tainted by this disgusting world and are unworthy to return, as they'd surely ruin it. Dream asks what the dragon thinks of all this, to which XD simply says that she is no more, a mindless husk, but safe, and she shall continue to be safe as long as he keeps pests like them out. XD then tries to grab at everyone, but the hand that reaches for Phil scribbles and dies before it can touch him, because while they were all talking, Phil reached out to Mumza and let her take over his body so she can help. She's angry with XD because he's acting out of line, and she feels she's stood back for far too long. As this is happening, Choppy realizes he recognizes that lady's voice. It's the same voice he heard from their fridge. Mumza decides XD needs a timeout and begins calling out for Trista, causing the mask behind XD's to begin shaking and trying to turn and overtake XD's mask. After a bit of resisting from XD and a bit more pushing from Mumza, XD loses his internal battle, the mask switch, and out pops Trista, who immediately gives her aunt and her uncle's body a hug. After that, she realizes Dream is there and zips to hug him too, exclaiming how excited she is to finally meet her brother. This statement flabbergasts pretty much everyone, except Mumza, of course. According to Drista, she exists because XD created a second child on his own when Dream's mom wasn't interested in having another child with him. Doing so had unintended consequences and so left her attached to his subconscious, which is why they've never met before now. Kristen asks Drista if she knows where XD took everyone, and she replies they're in nowhere. She snaps her fingers, and they all suddenly appear in a white void. She lets them know this dimension is fragile and to not stomp too hard. They begin searching, and Tommy notices all the frozen bodies hanging by strings. Trista explains to the group that these are all the people XD caught trying to enter the end dimension. Most of them are faces they don't recognize, but Charlie finds Quackity, Carl, and Sapnap very quick. Choppy, meanwhile, also happens to spot, oh my gosh, his wife Sally! He desperately tries to get her, nearly causing the ground to crack in his face, and Tommy has to grab it to make him stop. Kristen asks Trista if she can wake these people up. Before she can answer, Trista seems to freeze entirely. Suddenly, Kristen is kicked from Phil's mind and he falls, Techno catching him before he hits the ground. Everything begins shaking. The white around them begins to crack and splinter. Bodies fall loose from the ceiling and crash through the floor into the dark abyss below. Those people are dead now. Everyone frantically moves to avoid falling debris in holes opening in the floor. Jumpy manages to catch Sally before she falls through. Charlie somehow manages to catch all three of his mother figures, and Dream finally spots Rambo, still half shifted and coming loose from the strings. He He makes a beeline for him, but it's in that moment XD takes back a little more control, just the fighting back all the while. The commotion finally causes Rambo's strength to snap, and he falls right through the floor. Dream jumps down after him without a second thought, but just before he can grab him, there's a flash of blinding white light, and Rambo is gone. Before Dream can begin processing what just happened, a massive hand shoots up from the abyss and catches him before he falls in. The rest of the figure comes up to reveal Kristen, the real Kristen, as the abyss is her home. Phil comes down to greet his wife face to face for the first time in ages, and Chompy finally gets to meet his mother. Dream explains the white light he saw that took Rambo, and Kristen reassures him that Rambo will be back in no time since, well, where he's gone, time doesn't exist. The scene cuts to the in-between, where Rambo appears in one of the grand halls of the palace. It takes a bit for him to wake up, but when he does, he starts taking in his surroundings. One wall is lined with stained glass windows, seemingly telling some sort of story. Before he can begin piecing it together, a door at the end of the hall opens to reveal the gift giver, who runs to Rambo and embraces him, expressing how grateful he is to have caught him in time. Rambo pulls away and asks who he is and where this place is. Gift giver pulls his veil away to reveal bright crimson eyes just like Rambo's, with rivers of deep tear scars running down his face. Rambo realizes not only are those eyes familiar, he recognizes that man's face. He looks like Carl. Gift giver goes on to explain that he is technically Carl, but not the one he knows. His name is Jacob, and he's from the timeline that came before this one. Jacob tells Rambo of the previous world's ruin due to the hatching of the egg. Turns out the entity inside was none other than the blood god himself. Having officially deemed this world unworthy of continuing, he emerged and unleashed his followers to kill every living thing. Techno, being the blood god's host, was also forced to comply. Jacob barely managed to escape harm by hiding in Church Prime, the one place the egg's influence couldn't reach. Weeks went by. Jacob was all alone because everyone he knew was either dead or under bloodlust. He spent the next several days inside, praying to whoever was listening to save him. Finally, just before the blood god could breach the church, two voices spoke out to Jacob. This world is beyond saving, but we can start over. In doing this, it will be your responsibility to ensure history does not repeat itself. And so, that timeline was erased. The blood god was resealed in the egg, Carl was created to take Jacob's place in time, and Jacob himself was sent to the in-between, where he would carry out his duties to watch over time. The voices told him that in order for life to carry on, someone would need to be presented to the blood god who can make him believe that there is good in the world. Someone with a good heart. That someone ended up being Rambo, who coincidentally never even made it to life in Jacob's time. When the time came for Rambo to be born, Jacob reached out to the dragon who had conceived her second child using magic from herself and death. He warned her that the conflicting genetics would cause her unborn baby to die, and he offered to swap Death's genetics with his own to give it a fighting chance. She accepted, and due to the change in genetics being so abrupt, the child appeared split down the middle. And when the day came when Rambo was alone in the egg's presence, the blood god conceded to wait a while longer before emerging, giving just enough time for Techno to destroy it himself, saving this world from destruction. Obviously, this is a lot for Rambo to process, but one glaring thing sticks out to him. Does that mean you're technically my dad? In a sense, I suppose I am. Gift Giver apologizes for not being able to be there for Rambo growing up, but he's proud of the person he's become. Rambo begins to flicker, signaling his time here is coming to an end. Gift Giver asks Rambo to say hello to his mother for him, and Rambo asks if he'll see him again. Gift Giver promises he can visit anytime he likes. All he has to do is call out to him. And with that, Rambo disappears. The scene cuts back to the main group. Kristen is wading through the void, carrying everyone on her shoulders, hands, and somewhere on her hat. Sally and the Kaneko crew are still unconscious in her hand. Dream is staring blankly out into the abyss when the light appears once again, Rambo appearing beside him. Everyone is obviously happy to see him okay, but are also rightfully confused when Dream slams into him for a hug, exclaiming how worried he was. Upon Tommy demanding someone please explain what the hell is going on, Rambo and Dream finally come clean about the two of them being brothers for having the same mother. The group loses their minds, except for Kristen, who already knew, and Amesy, who had assumed they were siblings from the beginning, since they look similar. They explain the reasons for them being separated, and at some point, Rambo notices Sally and immediately goes to check if she's okay. Chompy asks how the hell they know each other, to which Rambo explains they were roommates in Ice Pixel. How does Chompy know her? Chompy explains that she's his wife. You're the music man she ran off with? Techno comments there's been a lot of lore dropping today. Amongst all of this, Phil asks Kristen where they're going exactly, and she responds they're heading to the End Islands, since the Abyss is connected to them, and the main island will have a portal that can send them home. This instantly catches Rambo and Dream's attention, because that means they're going to their home island. They're going to see their mom. They ask Kristen how she's been, and she goes on to explain what happened after they left. Over the years following their departure, Jean, the dragon, completely threw herself into her work, putting the realm's safety over her own. But over time, more and more people kept coming, developing new tactics to try and take her down. One group actually came close to finishing her off with dynamite. After that incident, XD finally decided he was going to intervene and appointed himself as guardian over every end portal. The damages from the last attack were so severe to Jean's psyche that her mind's regressed into a more primal state, and she's been like that ever since. Essentially, she's been underwalking this whole time. Dream and Rambo are obviously distressed to hear about all of this, but Kristen says there's a chance that them being there could snap her out of it. They finally reach the main island. Once Kristen sets them down, the brothers immediately start searching, and it doesn't take long before they find their mother, horribly scarred and slumped over the fountain. She looks exhausted. The Endermen tending to her move out of the way when the duo approach and give them room. They try speaking to her, to seemingly no avail. She just seems to look through them. It was then Rambo remembered the lullaby she always sung to them when they were young. It always made them feel better if they were hurting, so he figured it was worth a shot. To their surprise, the song actually seemed to be helping. And finally, after a bit more goading, she wakes up. It takes a moment for her vision to refocus, but once she realizes who's standing in front of her, she grabs them both and pulls them into a crushing embrace, sobbing for joy because her babies are finally home. At the same time, with the rest of the group, Sally finally wakes up from her nowhere coma, and she and Chompy are reunited too. Charlie gets to reunite with the Kinoko boys as well. Big ol' family reunion up in here. Rambo and Dream tell their mother all about their journey since they left the end and are excited to show her the things they've made and done. Solemnly, she reminds them that she can't pass through the fountain portal without an Ender Eye. They're disheartened for a moment before Drista makes a reappearance and announces she can help. As she/XD have the power to alter reality to some extent, she's able to unseal the realm so anyone can pass through portals. Yeah, XD could have done that all along, but he's a jerk, so he didn't. Jean finally gets to see the overworld and she couldn't be happier. And since the realms have been reopened, Kristen is able to appear on the physical plane at night again. That night, they decide to have a big party in New Nevada to celebrate everything. It's here Jean is able to meet both Sally and Puffy and thank both of them for raising her sons, which they were very flattered by. It's also when she gets to meet her grandson, which she's very excited about. Later into the evening, Dream announces he'll be returning with Jean to the end, as he'll be training to take her place as guardian of the realm someday. It's bittersweet, but Rambo is proud and promises to visit often, of course. Once all that is said and done, I wanted the screen to pan over and show me sitting at a table on the way back. Rambo comes to sit with me to congratulate me on finishing my big project, and ask me what I'll do next, to which I respond, well, I'd like to keep making things, that's for sure. I think I'm going to focus a bit more on what I want to do from here on out. I'd definitely like to write my own original story someday, and I've started getting into drawing more OCs and things from other fandoms I love too. Overall, I think I just want to have fun. I thank him for helping me to get to where I am, and he thanks me too. We shake hands, and I leave New Nevada, leaving it and the VSMP behind. Well, there you have it. I hope this ending wasn't super disappointing for anybody, or if anything was a little cheesy. Thank you all for sticking around and for pushing me to be a better artist. I hope I can continue making people happy with my work as I move forward. I love you guys. Bye-bye.